Welcome to Family Basics 101. I'm Dr. Bruce McClure, the local minister at the Prince George's Church of Christ, located at 7800 Central Avenue in Landover, Maryland. Throughout the week, in recognition of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, we focused on a series of daily lessons that I hope has drawn attention to the vast magnitude of domestic violence, not just locally, but nationally. Uh, this week, we're focusing on that topic, and next week, we will continue with this series, focusing on how the police, how the judicial system uh, basically must become more aware and more actively involved if we hope to bring about change in the present laws that regulate domestic violence. Uh, it's not just one area that must be addressed, but I think there's an entire across the board approach that we must begin to look at if we're going to bring domestic violence under control. Now, with that being said, how we understand domestic violence really shapes how we intervene. And that's going to be true from a church perspective, that's going to be true from a policing or a judicial perspective. Intervention can only be as strong as the mindset of the people who are tasked with intervening. If we see domestic abuse as simply problematic individual behavior driven by mental health problems or substance abuse, we look for ways to respond therapeutically to the individual. Oh, this person needs some type medication, and that's going to be the focus of how we intervene. Is oh, this person needs to be in counseling, uh, and that's going to be the mode of intervention. If we see it as attitude driven and socially reinforced, we look for social change that make it less likely. Uh, well, it's up to the Department of Human Services. It is we need more money to teach people. We need more social workers involved. That's going to be the approach people take. It's a social service issue. Or if we see it as essentially a crime, we look for criminal justice solutions. Uh, all of these people need to be put in jail. Well, there needs to be some type penalty. There's no doubt about that. But the judicial system now, especially the retention side of it, the jail side, uh, it's not reforming. It's taking people off the street. That's true, but what type of reform is taking place? Uh, how are the individuals better when they come out than when they went in? Uh, what are the education mechanisms while they're in? Uh, what's being addressed while the person is locked up? Uh, if it's only seen as a criminal act and we only expect the criminal justice system to deal with it, well, the criminal justice system is saying we're not social workers. They're saying we're not mental health workers. We're not a church. We're our primary concern is to make sure that these criminals don't break out. Or our primary concern is to make sure these criminals don't create havoc while they are inside this jail. But our job as the criminal justice system is not to reform. So what happens? The person comes out, they've done their time, but what have they learned? How have they matured? How have they developed into a better man or a better woman? And if we're not clear about why abusers act as they do, we're likely to take pot shots at the problem and risk doing more harm than good. In other words, we have no idea how to handle this problem. Families don't, churches don't, police really don't, the judges really don't, the detention centers. Well, let's just try this, let's just try that. And at the end of the day, we're kicking the proverbial can down the road because nothing concrete uh, is being done in a uniform way to really intervene to help develop a different mindset in the mind of the individual who is abusing, or many times in the mind of the person who is the recipient of the abuse. Uh, Let me give you a caveat, just a caution about intervention. Victims need domestic violence services, safety planning, orders of protection, and support. And we can't pick and choose which one of those they need. They need what I call, when I was working with the child welfare system, the social service system, the foster care system, uh, they need wraparound services. Uh, People who are involved in domestic violence, they need a full wraparound that addresses every aspect of what's going on. Uh, Victims should not have to deal with their partner's domestic abuse all by themselves. It requires what we would call a community to address this problem. And if this problem is not addressed on a universal basis within a community, uh, we're just kicking the can from point A to point B and expecting point B to do all they can, and then they kick the can somewhere else. Victims need a lot of help. Uh, they need all of the services, but they need someone to plan, where do you go from here? They need the judicial system to say, these are the services as you're moving from point A to point B. This is what you can expect from us. These are the support services that we're going to work with you and that we're going to have available to you. Uh, so a protective order is given. How does a victim support a protective order? I mean, think about that. If you give a protective order, a stay away order to a person that is struggling with mental health, and the person who's been abused, go to the grocery store, walk outside their home, and there's nobody there to watch out for them, who's going to help them? You say, well, we can't afford to provide escort services. Why not? If that's what it takes, that's what it takes. Is it because we do not want to invest monetarily into providing the level of services that we really know the victims need? Uh, well, we can't put a sentinel or a guard outside their home. Why not? Think about this. To guard a person's home for 6 months will cost less than incarcerating a person arrested and sentenced to jail for 90 days. It's amazing how we allocate our funds. We'd rather pay a county or a state to incarcerate a person for 90 days and yet not funnel any money to guard or to escort the person who's been abused for 90 days or 6 months after that person is released from incarceration. It costs a lot less to pay for a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week guard than it does to pay for an entire jail staff where you've got to feed, you've got to house, you've got to provide medical care. And that's for 90 days to 6 months. Whereas you've got police that are already being paid. Victims need domestic violence services. They need safety plans that can be enforced. And in most jurisdictions, those are non-existent. So the victim is a setup for re-victimization. I want you to join me again next week as we broaden our lesson for today. Because what we're doing to protect victims is really a Band-Aid. So victims many times, I was reading an article last night and I saw it again this morning, where the young man in the school shooting this week, that young man said he had been bullied and he was being bullied. In fact, the day of the shooting, he was being bullied. But his plea had gone unheard. His cries had gone unheard. And he took a gun to school. And he decided, if nobody's going to protect me, if nobody's going to help me, if nobody's going to really hear my cry, I'll handle it myself. And we had a school shooting. Now everybody is scrambling after the fact. But what about the people who were shot? The people who were injured? And in this case, the victim has victimized other people. This young 18-year-old will in all likelihood end up either in jail with a record on probation because he got fed up with being the victim. That happens so many times in domestic violence cases. The female gets tired of being bullied, being beat. Her children get tired of being bullied, being beat. And they do something that then violates the law. And they'll end up in jail or in trouble. I want you to be sure to tune in next week because we're going to explore how the system in many, many cases is not designed to protect people from domestic violence. If you or someone you know are in a domestic violence situation now, please take down the number on the screen, 800-799-7233. Again, 800-799-7233. I'll see you back in class again next week. Don't be late and don't skip class. God bless each of you.